So we're getting ourselves situated to interview. Can you pronounce that author's name? We're going to have to ask her how to say it. Is it Kaira Rouda? I've been saying
that's what I would say.
I've been saying Kaira Rouda. We're going to ask her how to pronounce her name because neither of us knows. But we're back at the Piedmont Club, and we're just going to have our lunch, and then we're going to bring in Kaira and talk to her about Jill is not happy. Okay, so there was a lot of discussion in the group about this book. And I'm eager to talk to the author about it.
It looked like there was,
yeah. It's different from our typical read.
It is.
And that's a good thing to try different things. And so we did that, and we're gonna talk to the author. We have questions for her.
Yes.
Lots of questions.
Yes. I mean, I was really I don't say surprised, but it was like, wow, folks are really batting things around here with this book.
Yeah.
Because it's unusual, I think, to have a book where you end up really not having any main characters being sympathetic characters.
Right.
And that's probably what has stirred the pot.
Yeah,
don't you think?
I do. And that's definitely unusual for me. I mean, I usually really like a character that I can root for.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll talk about this later, but for a long time in this book, I was rooting for Jack.
Yes, me too.
And then I no longer was. So anyway.
It upset me sort of from the beginning that he didn't seem to want their daughter, Maggie, or didn't seem to care that she wasn't close to her mother.
Well,
that bothered me, but I did have, sympathetic feelings for him.
That bothered me very early on until I kind of got to know Jill, and then I understood why he would want to protect his daughter from her mother because, she's crazy.
Yeah.
But anyway, we'll ask Kaira all about that.
Yeah.
And then we're going to, we were just talking about next month's book. We're both excited to read Karen White's new one.
Yes, the last Carolina Summer.
Yes.
It's got a bright, beautiful cover. I don't have it with me, but.
And I can't even remember what comes after that. But the list is in the group, so we'll check on that. But anyway, we're happy to see everybody. We've ordered lunch.
It's brand new menu here. We had so many good choices.
I'm having tomato pie, one of my favorites.
And I'm having a blackened salmon, grits, and greens bowl.
Okay. All right. We'll be back with y'all in just a few minutes.
So I've talked Susan into, right before we eat, we have to show off these beautiful meals.
Okay.
So here we are. Here I am with my grits, blackened salmon, and greens bowl.
And I have the tomato pie with salad and some watermelon. I'm excited about that watermelon. It is so hot here. Walking across the asphalt. Jim and I were walking in Publix the other day, and he said, across the asphalt, and he said, I feel like somebody is pressing my shirt with me in it.
Oh, God.
I think I'm going to use that. I've made a note.
But we are nice and cool in here. We have our iced tea and this lovely meal. So we'll see you soon.
All right. Hello. I'm going to say this wrong now. Hello, Kaira. I said it right earlier. I'm going to say it wrong. Welcome, Kaira Rouda, to the Kaira Rouda. It rhymes with Gouda, y'all. If you need to know, it's Kaira. You say the air like Kaira, and then it's like air, and then Rouda, like rhymes with Gouda.
Rouda cheese.
So I had been saying it right until I asked her to say it for me, and now I'm going to mess it up every time. Welcome, Kaira Rouda, to the Lowcountry Book Club. And Susan Zurenda and I are happy to be here with you today to talk about your book, Jill is Not Happy. So for anyone who has not met Kaira, a little bit about her. She is a USA Today, Amazon #1, and international best-selling author. She's the author of, I think I counted right, 15 novels. Is that right?
Yeah, it's more like 23, but I have the couple series in there. So
my math is not great.
It depends where you look. Even my website doesn't have everything.
I went to your website. I took that as the gospel. So anyway, she's written a bunch of books, y'all, that dig beneath the surface of seemingly perfect lives. To date, Kaira's work has been translated into more than a dozen languages. 3 of her novels have been named Amazon Editor's Picks for Best Mystery, Thriller, and Suspense. Jill Is Not Happy was named a 2025 Most Anticipated Book by Zibby Media. Welcome, Kaira.
Thank you, Susan. It's
We're
so
so glad to have you with us today. And we are just, your book is, we were talking we had lunch beforehand, and we were talking at lunch about it. Your characters are unusual, and we'll get into that.
I think you have the first question.
Oh, okay then. All
But you
right.
have some.
into it now.
Yes.
Okay, so after I finished the novel, I thought about how Jill's character sort of reminds me of Glenn Close's character, and maybe somebody's already said this to you, her character of Alex in Fatal Attraction. And it's not exactly the same because Alex has an affair with Dan and Jill is married to Jack, but both women are obsessed with their men, and these men want to leave them. And so as a result, it seems both women become more psychotic as time progresses. So is Fatal Attraction a movie you like? And on top of that, what was your inspiration for this novel?
Yeah, I love Fatal Attraction. That was just terrifying to me. I remember still the first time watching it going, oh my goodness, she is going crazy. But yes, I do love strong women. And I think my character is kind of like that character. They find themselves losing control of what they want. And Jill is not happy. Jill is happy as long as she has Jack. And that's really all she's wanted. And she decided from college on that he would be her man. And as long as they're together, everything's fine. But as you mentioned, from the beginning of the book, you kind of know that Jack is slipping away and having an affair. And that makes Jill incredibly unhappy. So that is where the story started. And I have written several marriage thrillers at this point. And I like to say it's probably because I've been married for 35 years that I have a lot of inspiration. I mean, he's a great guy, so I we're fine. But anybody that's been in a long-term marriage, at times you're like, I'm going to kill you. Not seriously, but we went on a road trip to the Utah National Parks during the pandemic, my husband and I. And when we were driving out there, we go to this place called Bryce Canyon. I don't know if you guys have been there, but it's just red rock sculptures and these canyons. And you look down and there's these sandstone sculptures, and they call them hoodoos. And as the sun's setting and there's all these shadows forming, and I look down and my husband's like, I know what you're thinking. I'm like, yeah, oh yeah, I could kill somebody here for sure. That's kind of the situation when you're married to a suspense writer. So that kind of gave me I usually start with a setting popping into my mind and a character, and Jill was already there. She just needed a setting to get started.
And so what was the inspiration for Jill, though?
Jill, it's hard to say where exactly she comes from. I tend to write unreliable narrators, and I tend to write, as I said, women who know what they want and know how to keep people in line if they're not paying attention. So I'm not exactly positive where she came from. She just kind of popped into my head, and we were off and running.
Okay.
There were a couple of related questions in the group to that. Do you
that.
want to go into those?
Yeah,
They
I
kinda
will.
tie in.
But we forgot to say before we started, Kaira, that we assume in this particular book club group that folks have read the novel, and so we don't. We
we're
have
fine with
spoilers.
Yeah, and we tell them, don't watch this until you've read the book because there are spoilers. We put that all over the post because we don't want people to be mad at us. But we want to talk about the book, like we would at book club after we've read the book.
Yeah,
right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So just long as we needed to say that up front and forgot to do it. Okay, so this comes from Diana, who's read the book in the Lowcountry Book Club. How did you get into the warped headspace of Jill? How did you not get consumed with it along the way? Diana says she's a dark and twisted mind, and she says, I wouldn't want to go there.
Yeah, it is strange because I write suspense, so my characters go dark. And I would say that Jill, of all my female lead characters, she's definitely the darkest so far. I think for me as an author, and I my daughter with my first book, Best Day Ever, she's like, where did that guy come from? Why are you writing about these scary people? And to me, it's just a way to process the world, and there is darkness in the world, and there are a lot of these kind of people out there too. So it's almost cathartic writing about her. Now, while I'm in the process of writing and she's in my head like 24/7, that is a little scary. And I'll be up here. I'm up in my office right now, but when she gets scary, I often will like close my laptop and go downstairs and just, we're up here. And I told my husband during one scene in the book, because you guys have read it. So when she's sitting on the porch at the lodge and she has the candle and she's just sitting there waiting for him to come back from the hike that she's left him on, that scene really scared me because I knew she was about to reveal something. So I had to like close my laptop, go downstairs and wait until the next meeting. Yeah. Yeah. I try to write during the daytime when I've got those feelings.
Yeah. I write at night.
Yeah.
So it would not do.
I
No,
know.
it'd be good. Yeah.
I would do the same thing. She would scare me.
Now, I think we've pretty much answered Laura's question.
Well, she
Do
said,
they come totally out of your imagination, or have you actually
Yeah.
known people with some of these deviant character traits? And she said, poor Maggie.
No kidding, poor Maggie. I mean, I do think we all know narcissists, and my characters probably start there and then get a little darker depending on the story. So yes, I'm very aware of those types of people in the world, and I've met them, and so is everyone, I'm assuming. So yeah, they're not based on anybody in particular, but they're based on a lot of people walking around among us right now.
Yeah.
When I talk about Jill, I often say, and even giving interviews, because she started taking over, like reporters will send you questions and I'd be answering them, typing them, and all of a sudden Jill's like, you are so boring. Let me take this interview. So I had a lot of interviews. I was writing like something about cooking for Crimes Free or something like this. And I was talking about California cuisine, and she literally is like in my head and then on the paper jumps in and said, no, I'm taking over. But Jill, if you were going to ask her, she pictures herself kind of like a 1950s housewife. So
Right.
She
Yes.
wrote,
Thank
Did
you
you
for
guys
that.
like
I saw that picture online. And if you've got the book too, later we'll hold it up.
yeah, because she's scary. But yeah, this is online, and if you want to kind of picture Jill the way she pictures herself, that is how she does.
okay. Well, Holly had asked a similar question, but I think we've covered it. Basically, she just said, my question for the author is the same as everyone else's. How do you think up the plot twist and the despicable characters? I think we've covered that. So I'm going to move on to talk to us about Jack. Up until a certain point, I was really rooting for him. Did you know in the beginning he was going to be a horrible person too, or did this come to you as you were writing?
I am what they call a pantser. So I write by the seat of my pants. So I don't plot. So I don't know what's going to happen next, which is scary and also kind of fun.
Yeah.
But with Jack, we know from the beginning that he's having an affair. So I would say that he was already a bad guy. But I did not know how devious he would become too, and I mean, I guess he's trying to survive and, make his own way, because Jill is, tough to live with. So I guess for a while I wanted him to seem like he wasn't terrible, but yeah, he's also terrible.
Yeah. So Stephanie Belcher asked a similar question. She wanted to know how you came up with the character of Jack. And did he always have a penchant for evil? You've answered that part, but was there an inspiration for Jack?
Nope. Like I said, Jill was in my head first. And then, I knew that she needed, the original title of this book was Marital Privilege, which is boring, I know, but it was based on the principle of when a couple shares secrets together, they can't be compelled to testify against each other. But once you're not divorced, then you can. So with a couple with a lot of secrets like Jack and Jill share, that's kind of where it all started. And so I knew that Jill needed a counterpoint who could at least a little bit hold his own. So that's where Jack came from.
Okay.
Another member asked if anybody else felt sorry for Jack at the beginning but changed their opinion. And yes, that would be me. And then, she asked, what was your intention? And I think you've answered that. I think we're back to you.
Yeah, I'm going to go back to this
Okay.
question. You mentioned because I don't know the analyst in me. I taught literature for 33 years. That's probably what it is. But you mentioned Jill's narcissistic, and I guess, of course, Jack is too. And it devolves from there. So I started thinking about and wondering whether you had done any psychological research, about mental illness with women like Jill to develop her, because you do give us a lot of background about her childhood in a repressive religious environment. And I guess that helps set the stage for her mental illness. And as I did a little research myself, and she seems to have traits of both borderline personality disorder and antisocial, sociopath personality disorder. And then I went and read the differences between the two, that people with borderline personality disorder, they often experience emotions intensely and for extended periods, which I think is probably true for her. And she struggles to return to a stable emotional baseline after an upset. On the other hand, sociopaths typically lack the capacity for deep emotional experiences and show a lack of empathy. And she certainly shows a lack of empathy and an inability to form genuine emotional connection. So I'm sitting here thinking there's traits of both. Tell us whether you did any research or just kind of let Jill develop as she was going to develop.
Yeah, I mean, I've done a lot of research. I'm actually going back to get my MFA right now, and I'm like reading a bunch about narcissists and cluster B personality disorders, all of that good stuff. I am not a psychiatrist or psychologist, so when I don't diagnose my characters because I don't really know what they are while I'm writing them, they just kind of appear and start doing their horrible things. I will say, when I first started writing thrillers, which was with Best Day Ever was my first book, I was writing about a narcissist, Paul, from a first-person male point of view, the whole story, which was different for me. And during writing him, and I don't know what his exact diagnosis would be, but he is one of them. And I went into a chat room. It was for survivors of domestic abuse. Oh, and it was like an open forum. And what shocked me the most about being in there was the number of men justifying their behavior. Like they still didn't have any sympathy or empathy for their victims. They were still justifying whatever it was that they did. And that to me, I'll never forget reading that, place. So these people, like I said, are out there in their differing degrees. And I would argue that they're all dangerous in their own way. They might not all be capable of murder, but they are self-centered. They typically don't have empathy. They are out for themselves only. And, we do see this in they say like the CEOs of the big companies or, could be diagnosed like this. So it's to me, I'm just fascinated with how many we've created and why our society oftentimes rewards that behavior.
Yes.
I did not realize that we had printed on the back as well as the front. That's why I skipped that whole page.
Oh,
so now I'm back to my question on that page. Normally I don't print front and back. Okay. Right. So I know the overall genre, of course, is mystery, thriller, suspense, and you've called it a thriller a couple of times. And we were actually having this conversation in the group one day. It seemed more psychological suspense to me. How would you classify it? And are all of your books in the same genre? And do you typically write from the point of view of a crazy person?
Yes, I think since Best Day Ever up through Jill Is Not Happy, I've been classified as psychological suspense, domestic suspense, and then my publisher for this one put thriller on the cover. I guess there's a whole genre of marriage thrillers, which many of my books fit into as well. I do like kind of the husband and wife situation, so I often find myself with those characters popping into my head. So I think they all kind of blur together, those categories.
Yes.
Yeah. What was the second part of the question?
Do you typically write from the point of view of a crazy person?
Oh, yes. Uh-huh.
Yeah, she said Yeah, well, she's an unreliable
Oh, yeah,
narrator,
yeah.
which I
Well,
guess doesn't have to be
No,
crazy.
they don't have to be
No.
crazy. Some unreliable narrators
I
are not.
think
That's true.
I
That's
think
true.
unreliable narrators are really fun to write. I really like writing from that perspective because whether they're, tip all the way into a sociopath or psychopath, when people are lying to you, I mean, to me, the fun is figuring out what's the truth and what's the lie throughout the whole book and who's telling the truth. And maybe, hopefully, you're rooting a little bit for Jill sometimes because she is kind of funny. And then she's also been cheated on by the one man in her life that she loves. And then also you kind of root for Jack, mainly root for Maggie to just stay in college. And stay out of there. Yeah, because that's Jack's redeeming quality is he was sticking around to protect Maggie until she was off to college. And then he felt okay about cheating. So.
And I think unreliable narrators are very hard to write. I mean, yeah. So it's a real talent to be able to do it.
Oh, well, thank you. It's fun. It really is. Given this is like my fifth act, I used to say it's my second act, but it's like my fifth act, I think.
You mentioned, or part of that question was about the other novels, or, what did you always write this way? And I think you mentioned earlier when we were talking before we hit record that some of your books are romances. Yes?
Yes. So I started out, I didn't ever picture doing this, but my very first book published was a nonfiction book for women entrepreneurs called Really You Incorporated, 8 Essentials for Women Entrepreneurs. My husband and I had built a residential real estate company together and franchise that ended up in 22 states. So I was asked to, which was really fun. It was back in 2000s. And anyway, we ended up selling that, but which was fun to Warren Buffett. I like to say that it wasn't him personally, it was like his company. But anyway, so that kind of started my writing career. And I had to go speak across the country to women's conferences, which was really fun. And this one in Austin, Texas, a woman raised her hand and she's like, so have you done everything you want to do? Because that's kind of my message in the book. It's never too late to start living the life of your dreams and put your passions into actions. No, I haven't written the novel yet. She's like, well, what's holding you back? I'm like, you're right. So my first, I would say, I think 3 novels were considered women's fiction, which all books are women's fiction because women are the readers. But anyway, and so those were, not so dark and also still set in the suburbs. And I like to say grown-ups behaving badly, but in this case, more mildly bad. And then my books just started getting darker and darker. And then I had a friend of mine who started a romance publishing company called Thule. And she asked me if I wanted to try writing romance, which I never had done. And I thought that would be fun. So I set a romance series called the Indigo Island series. It's actually based on the time we spent going to Defusky Island. When we lived in Ohio, we would pile the kids, we have 4 kids, into this conversion van and drive down. And usually overnight, so they would sleep and we would drive and then arrive and take the ferry and be in a whole nother world. And I love that island. It's a beautiful
So how did you find, because we were talking about your connection to South Carolina and Defusky Island. It's an out of the way place. How did it come on your radar? How did you find out about it?
We had gone to Hilton Head a number of times, and okay. I remember we were at this concert in the park, and I don't remember the park, but you could see kind of the lighthouse, and then you could see out, on the sound. And my daughter had gone up on stage, and she was singing. She was just itty bitty, probably 3 or 4 years old, and the people on the stage started talking about Defusky Island, like what was on the horizon or something. It was like a kid's so that's when we first heard about it and went over there and just fell in love. I mean, the Gullah culture is so present, and it was like going into a different world, and the kids could just explore the beach. The beach is so alive with everything, and it's a beautiful place.
It is.
Yeah.
Okay, I think it's your question.
Oh, okay. Let's see where. Well,
we're in the middle of this page, I think.
With this one, Utah, the journey. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. We just talked about South Carolina and Defusky Island, and I think you really mentioned this earlier, how the journey to Utah reflects. Well, you talked about seeing the canyons and thinking about, wow, this could be a good place for a murder, but how that journey for the character, Jill, begins to reflect her psychological unraveling, because until they go on that trip, we don't really know how seriously dark she is.
Right. And I guess too, when I didn't know it before, but before she started planning the trip, as I'm writing the book, I didn't know that she was actually luring him kind of back to her stomping grounds, because she had gone there as a child to these national parks. And so she was familiar with the setting. And for her as a character, it was important to get Jack off balance and get him away from his normal life so she could kind of confront him with everything she knew about what he was up to, and also remind him of everything they'd done together and maybe some things he didn't know about. So I think that was why the setting was so important, and having her run into like extended family members at the lodge and stuff. I had no idea that was going to happen, but then I thought that was so great, because it's important to keep her off balance a little bit too.
Right. And does going back to her home, and I think that's really kind of in your next question, because she begins to kind of become more desperate on that trip. And I guess because he's not cooperating.
Right. I mean, that's the whole thing. She, as long as he does what she says and they have the facade of the perfect marriage, everything's fine. And she can pretty much deal with hurdles that come the way, like if he loses his job, that's okay, as long as they're together. So I think when she realizes during that trip that he actually means what he says, when he says he's leaving, that just pushes her over the edge.
Gotcha.
So what made you choose Jill's background as being raised in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints? And how does her religious upbringing affect her personality? And to tie into that, Stephanie Belcher had asked, I would like to know if she knows someone who was brought up with a strong religious influence that ended up taking a dark path.
Yeah, not personally. I mean, I know some members of the Latter-day Saints. I mean, it's a great religion. I didn't know she was going to be part of that, like I said, because the setting came first, and then all of a sudden her
they're in Utah. Yeah,
exactly. So that kind of it started happening when they stopped at the gas station, and that person, like it was kind of helpful for her to have family and tentacles through there. But I do know in general, I mean, I was let's see, my dad was Church of Christ. And we were raised little in Church of Christ, which is, pretty strict religious upbringing. So I have a little experience with it, not much, because we didn't stick with that all through growing up. So that kind of faded out. But it's really just culturally where your family of origin, their beliefs are going to affect how you see the world, and how you're raised always contributes to how you're going to behave later on. And so for Jill, she was not a good fit with that life. Just the way she came, it was not a good fit for her. So she was able to get out. I mean, they wanted her out, and she wanted out too. So yeah, it's just I guess for me, more than the religious side, for me, it was more being able to populate the story with people who would recognize her as coming back. And she did not expect that at all.
Okay. Right. Okay. Oh, is it my turn again? Okay. Michelle, who is Jill's best friend. I mean, she's an obvious foil, for Jill. But in the very beginning, when they're having coffee, of course, I'm wondering, well, why does she only just have the one friend or one best friend? And of course, eventually we understand that Michelle is like this fairly normal straight shooter, and that Jill is crazy or whatever. Maybe, so Michelle really stands out for me. What do you see as Michelle's purpose in the novel? I mean, to highlight Jill, to be a foil for Jill, or what would you tell readers is her main raison d'etre?
Yeah, Michelle is there and had been there for Jill since college to teach Jill how normal people act. Right. So when Jill is with Michelle, she's trying to learn and kind of modeling how, I mean, she's not going to be able to do with Michelle, but she's just kind of trying to, and she's also, she wants Michelle to validate her choices too, because she knows Michelle's, has friends, and Michelle's popular and all of that kind of stuff. So yeah,
It justifies her. Yeah.
yeah. And these, I mean, a person like Jill, as noted, doesn't make deep connections. So everybody's going to serve a purpose in her story. And so Michelle serves that purpose. Like, this is how a normal person is, in this setting. And I can try to be a little bit like Michelle.
Yeah.
So that explains why Jill wants to be Michelle's friend. Oh gosh, I had friends as a child named Jill and Michelle. I
Just put that together.
Yeah. Anyway, but it doesn't explain why Michelle wants to be Jill's friend. I wondered a couple of times how it was possible for Michelle to not know how disturbed her friend was, because she'd known her a long time. And there was a moment when I thought surely she realized. No?
No, Michelle sees the good in people. And Michelle knows that Jill doesn't have a lot of friends, so she wants to be there for her. And if you sat down and interviewed Michelle, she would be surprised by everything that Jill has been up to under her nose. She just wouldn't see that in her friend.
Interesting. Okay. Now I'm turning over these pages that are printed on the back, and we've gotten out of order.
You can tell we're not very good pantsers.
No, we're not. I'm applauding from way back. It's your turn. Just pick a question.
Okay. Well, we've talked about how both Jack and Jill, and I love the illusion because they, Jack falls down and breaks his crown, and Jill comes tumbling after. And they're both in a mess. But do you, as the author, like you say in the beginning, Jack seems to have more for us to feel sympathetic toward than Jill, but in the end, neither of them. Do you think one of those characters is more flawed than the other, or you think they're pretty equally? I mean, in your mind, you created them. What do you think?
I think they deserve each other.
That's a good answer.
Yeah,
That's a good answer
too.
Yeah, better for them to stay together and save other people from that kind of relationship.
So the title of the book is quite an understatement. Talk to me about how you decided on the title. Did you choose it, or did the publisher? And I think you mentioned a different title that was the original one earlier. So how did this come to be the title? And Stephanie Belcher wanted to know if you had ever had a different title, and I think you've addressed that. But tell us again the original title.
So the original title was marital privilege, which is that legal term that just means you're protected. The secrets you share are protected unless you get a divorce, and then you can be compelled to testify against each other. So I thought that was just an interesting concept that was keeping them together. And then my agent, when she read the book, she loved the book, but she hated the title. She's like, that is so boring. She's an attorney too. Okay. And she's like, the point of the whole book is Jill is not happy. Like, she just said it like that. And then we both went, oh my gosh, that is it. So it was like that. And then she told when she sold or, sent it to the publisher, that's the title that she had on it, and they kept it and liked it too. So.
What happened with the title of my first novel? It's like Marley just said, well, what about such a, I went, oh, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
When the light bulb goes off, isn't it?
It's so nice. Yeah, that was, and rarely happens like that. It's just kind of, it happened.
Okay, so we had another question about the ending, and I think you've addressed that because you're a pantser. Okay, wait a minute. Someone asked, why did you decide to end the book the way you did? I guess with them together and neither one of them in jail. Why are these horrible people not locked up?
Yeah, I think
somewhere?
she's with the marital privilege.
Right.
That's the only way they can stay protected, right?
Yep. And I think too, I have very few encounters with police and detectives in my books because I don't really know that world. So my characters tend to get away with things just because from my author perspective, I don't want to have to learn about all of that. So I just think
Susan can teach you because she has detectives in her novels and she knows all about them.
Okay, but I have private detectives for
That's
the
true.
exact same reason.
Oh, okay.
I don't want to have to learn the technical rules so much, and
Yeah.
my characters break the rules all the time.
They do.
But
But you do have a real policeman.
Well, yeah, but he's not the main character.
No.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Makes sense.
what else we got?
Mhm.
Um, hmm.
I think one that this is Kathy Oswald asked, why does Jill hate her daughter so much? I think that's
That is a
good
good
one.
question.
She doesn't hate her. She just doesn't. When she was younger, she was a good prop, and teenagers happen, and she's not going to do whatever her mom says. And Maggie's old enough to understand that her mom's not a traditional mom, and they're just not going to have a heartfelt connection. So it's not, I don't think it's hate. It's more just, if she did hate Maggie, she would be killing Maggie, right? She
That's
doesn't.
true. Very true.
Yeah.
We know
They're
she's capable of that.
That's right.
They're just kind of, they're coexisting until Maggie can skedaddle to college. And then probably will be one of those things where they don't really see each other much after that.
Right.
Yeah.
It'll be done.
So tell us what's next. What's your next project?
Oh, it's called, I just got an advanced reader copy so I can show you guys. It's called We Were Never Friends.
Ah.
Okay, I'm not good at that. There we go. And it's so I went to Vanderbilt and I was in a sorority. It's not about them, but it's about a group of sorority sisters who are forced to get back together because one of their sons is engaged to one of their daughters, and they haven't seen each other for many years. And one of them is hosting a reunion engagement party at her new vacation home in Palm Springs. So they're all reluctantly coming back together, and then bad things happen.
That's a good premise.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it was really fun to write because two of my kids were married recently, and another one's engaged. So I'm kind of in the whole wedding season. So it was fun.
That's where you are. Well, do you have your book nearby? Could you hold it up so the readers can see that?
I left my copy at home, and
Yes.
Susan listened to the audio.
Yes. So yes.
I know, I love the cover, and
Yeah.
since you guys have read it, that's Jimson weed on the cover, so it's kind of like a big.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so
Did not know that, or I didn't know. I don't know enough about.
appropriate.
one of the original poisoning plants. It was named after the name from the settlers' perspective was because of Jamestown. That's where some of the first people who were here trying to settle America ate the wrong flower. So yeah.
And see, I did not know that. I learned that. I mean, I knew that something bad happened to him. I didn't know that was what happened to them.
Yeah, that was one of the bad things that happened to him. Yep.
One of many. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much
Yes,
for
it's
joining
been a lot
us
of
today.
fun.
This has been fun. It's a pleasure to meet you in person, and best of luck with the new book.
Thank
And
you.
when does that come out?
That comes out February 3rd.
Okay. All right. So not too long.
Yeah, it's like 6 months. It's crazy. Like, wait, oh gosh, I'm still talking about Jill. Jill's like, do not.
Yeah, it's still living in your head. Yeah.
Yeah,
Jill is not ready for you to be done with
Yeah.
her.
It's hard to be done with Jill.
she's not. Yeah, there's some strong characters in here too. So I don't know. They're going to give her a run for the mind money, I guess. But anyway, but it's fun. Yeah, and I love hearing you guys' accents. It makes me think of college. I missed a Fusky.
5 memories of South Carolina, right?
Yeah, I'd love to. Yeah, hopefully I'll see you in person someday soon.
Well, you still have a lot there, did you say?
No, we sold that.
Oh, okay. I thought you
Yeah, no.
said you had a lot there.
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But you're still on the coast.
Yes.
I am strong.
Okay, that was the other. So you actually live in Laguna Beach, where your characters are.
Yes, they are stomping around. I kind of like setting to be someplace I know, so that kind of helped. I mean, I didn't know the national park in Utah until we went there on that trip, but my characters come like either usually Ohio, someplace in the Carolinas, and we also spent a lot of time in Florida too, but I haven't really put people there yet. So it's fun.
All right.
Well,
Well, thank you again.
Thank you for visiting with us. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. Thanks so much for picking my book.
Oh, we enjoyed it. Thank you.